want to go just full into this past Tuesday and the election results, because it was a big, big, big night for Democrats. Starting, as you mentioned, the first victory was Spanberger's victory here in Virginia. Then you went to New Jersey. You saw Mikey Sherrill win. Then you saw Mamdani win in New York City. You saw public service commissioners winning in Georgia. Obviously, Proposition 50 was a victory for not only California, not only for yourself, but also for Gavin Newsom. Obviously, put a lot of political capital into making sure that Proposition 50 was a victory. But there's something more, I think, from my opinion, that isn't getting enough attention in these victories, at least from what I've seen. That they weren't just like, they weren't just wins. They weren't just victory. The margin on these victories were pretty big. I think Mamdani was +8. I think Mikey Sherrill was like plus 13. I don't have the numbers on Span, or no, it was Spanberger that was +13. I think Mikey Sherrill also had a pretty large margin of victory.
Yeah, and the first was pretty big.
Yeah, these were the Democrats dominated. It looked like Shaq in the early 2000s. It was very, very impressive. What are your thoughts? What are your takeaways? Was there an election that you were keeping your eye on the most, or one that surprised you?
Well, first I got to ask you, what the hell are these public safety or public service commissions there in Georgia? Because I remember I'm watching that and they're like touting these, like, oh, hey, Democrats won these, and I'm like, what is that position? I don't know what they do.
I'm not 100% sure on the specifications of what the public service commissioners do. From what I have it understood, it's a board of 5 members. And so 2 of them, flipped for Democrats. I believe it was 2 of them that flipped. And they just literally vote on matters of public service, on how different services are going to be given from the gubernatorial office, and how that's going to impact Georgians.
No, I just thought it was interesting that they were touting these victories, and I'm like, I never even heard of this position before, right? But look, the two. Go ahead.
I was going to say the reason that these victories are so consequential in Georgia, beyond the position, is that they haven't won these seats in, I think it was 30 years. So it's been a long time since a Democrat has been in these seats, which I think is a telltale sign that things are changing.
Yeah, I would say before election night, I don't know if that was something that people were surprised by, the fact that Democrats were able to flip those, because I've never even heard about that race even going on until election day. But the 2 that I was focusing on, right, and I think this is the future here of like where we're going and where the country wants to go, was really Virginia and New Jersey, the governor races there, right? Not only because they're 2 of my former colleagues, 2 of my friends. We came into Congress together in 2018. We were all part of these, national security veterans, or national security folks. Abigail's a former CIA officer. Abigail was in the CIA. Mikey served in the Navy, was a former helicopter pilot. And so we were all part of this group campaigning together. We went to events together across the country. And so, obviously there was an interest, a personal interest in them winning, but I think their victories kind of really show, which way the country wants to go, right? It wants individuals that are going to be willing to work in order to find agreement across the aisle around there in order to make things happen, right? And again, they focused on affordability issues, the issue that is resonating right now with the American people, that things are just way too expensive, and we need to work to kind of find a way to kind of bring down costs, right? And to make sure, look, a lot of the energy costs is going around in a lot of different parts of the country because of the data centers, because of AI, and so, and a lot of these projects in these blue states that were energy kind of focused, right, on renewable energies, have been kind of, the kibosh has been put on them by this administration, who just wants to focus on coal and oil instead of like the future of energy. So the cost has risen, right? And but the companies that are doing this, right, they need to pay their share, right? We can't keep forcing, the American people to kind of pick up the slack, because We just want to create more jobs in industry, right? These industries, these new businesses need to be able to pay their fair share, and it can't be pushed back on the American people. So these are the things that resonated with people. This is why people kind of turned out. And this really was. Trump wants to claim that it's a shutdown, and that might have been part of the reason. But this was really against him, right? This was against his policies, the things that he's doing, the ICE raids, which even people that are like so anti-immigration, they've even said that, oh God, these things are going just way too far, right? The treatment of the people and the inhumanity. So it is just this election really was about him, his policies, and the treatment of the way he's doing things, right? And his lack of ethics too, right? No president has enriched himself more during their presidency than Donald Trump, and it's not even a contest, right? It is, most, at least in the modern era, right? Most presidents have waited until after they got out of office to kind of go and to do stuff where they can make money, whether it's giving speeches or even like President Obama's doing, like now producing Netflix shows and things like that. But they waited until after they got out of office to do all this stuff. He's just doing it while he's in. And it's crazy. It is just nuts, and I think the people are pushing back. And like I said, this election was a referendum on him and his policies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you mentioned it already. He was talking about the shutdown, and he said that it was that his name wasn't on the ballot. Those are the two reasons that that Republicans lost this as a whole. I think. Naturally, the election that I was more focused on, people in my generation were more focused on, was what was happening in New York. I would love to just hear your take, your reaction to that, because that was, a race that I think most of the country had their eyes on, and the victory there was surprising to me. I mean, the margin of the victory there, at least, was pretty surprising to me. The voter turnout was surprising to me. What are your thoughts?
Look. Again, I think the two more important ones were the governor races, because these are statewide elections. It's not just an election of a city. But again, I think he focused on the same issue of affordability that resonated in the states of New Jersey and Virginia. That was the message that he was pushing forth, right? That things are just too expensive here, and we need to kind of do more to make things more affordable for the citizens of this country. And so it'll be interesting to kind of see how he governs now. I know he had some kind of radical policies on some of the things that he was saying, like, free public transportation and things like that. I don't know how you're going to pay for it if it's free, but, it'll be interesting to see how he's able to kind of govern now, kind of moving forward with some of the things that he said, right? Is he going to actually be able to kind of do that, once he's, in office, right? And he's kind of presented with, okay, now we got the bills to pay, right? There's been many situations, I think where you see like where a lot of, individuals that have been pro-labor continue to be pro-labor, but they're never as pro-labor as, once they get elected to like a statewide, or I should say like, to become a governor or the mayor of a city, and they've been pro-labor their whole career, some of those things change, right? Once you're actually on the other side of the fence, and now you're having to hire these people and kind of negotiate with them and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that all kind of plays out too.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a very interesting case study for a couple different things. I think that obviously within the Democratic Party, there has been this.
The thing I want to know from you, right? I'm sorry I interrupted you, but
no worries.
Why was that race of more significance than the two governors' races?
I think that there's a couple different factors. Obviously, the first one is that Mamdani's literacy in terms of social media and being able to connect with young people, one, as a consequence of his age, and two, as a consequence of just like his social media strategy and the team that he built, just led a lot more people in my generation to have an eye on that race, and it got international attention, and obviously social media was just all over it. And then two, the reactions that Republicans were having to it. I mean, the blatant Islamophobia that was going on, just how heated it was. It really just became like a cultural talking point over the past couple of weeks. And then three, I think that this generation in particular has more of an attitude for progressive politics. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see, as you're saying, if that attitude remains, depending on whether, you know, Mamdani is actually able to deliver on his policies or not. But as a whole, I think that he was just more of a captivating, I guess, figure, and the fact that some of his ideas were, like you're saying, more radical caused them to get more attention, caused him to get more attention, and ultimately caused more people to have their eyes on what was going to happen in that race and what the consequences of that are going to be for Democratic politics. I'm particularly interested in.
Yeah, you know, to me, even though it's the largest city in America, it's still a city. It's still a mayoral race. You know, I think guy, I can't even remember his name now. Giuliani, right? He thought so much of him kind of being in New York that he could go right from being mayor to running for president of the United States, and that didn't work out so good for him in 2016, right? So I think I get that it created a lot of excitement amongst young people, but I don't see it as kind of like the moving factor of like, okay, now this is the way that the Democratic Party is moving in the country because we won, you know, one mayoral race in a large city.